Good afternoon, colleagues, Fresno State colleagues. This is Patty Wade. I'm Director of University Communications, and welcome to the President's Fall 20 Forum for faculty and staff here at Fresno State. We have 4 panelists today that I'd like to introduce you to, and then we'll go through the process of taking questions. So first is President Joseph Castro and Chancellor-Select Castro for the CSU. Welcome. And then next is Provost Saul Jimenez Sandoval is here with us today. And Vice President Debbie Adician Astone is here with us today. And then Professor Tom Holyoke and Chair of the Academic Senate. Thank you for joining us today. So audience members, before we begin, I'd like to remind you that we do take questions from you via the Q&A section of the screen. But I would like to ask President Castro if he has any opening remarks he'd like to start with before we begin taking questions. President Castro?
Thank you, Patty. Are you able to hear me? Okay, perfect. Thank you, Patty, and thanks to everybody for joining us today. I always appreciate the opportunity to hear directly from you, your questions, and any feedback that you have in terms of the campus and how we can be even more supportive of your very important work. I'll just provide a few open remarks. First of all, as we're here in the 8th week of the semester, I want to thank you for your hard work, your great work. We're doing fabulously as a campus in keeping our community safe as possible, and also meeting our bold mission to educate and empower our students for success. And as you've seen nationally, many universities are struggling mightily with COVID cases. And I just want to commend you because together we've been able to keep our cases at a very modest level and have so far avoided any significant community spread and have been able to keep our in-person courses going. And that's only because of everybody's hard work. And I ask you to continue to do that in these coming weeks. We know that with the influenza coming, this mixture is something we've not dealt with before. And I anticipate challenges there. But if we all stay focused on doing the right thing, keeping our hands clean and social distancing and masking as much as possible, I think we'll be able to continue to navigate these challenging times. I recently was able to join the other presidents in celebrating our trustees scholars, and for us, Jose Alvarez received our trustees award. Very talented young man from Madera. Father basically abandoned he and his mother and 5 siblings when he was younger, and he has persevered. He's in our nursing program and has such a bright future. And just another reminder of the incredible students that we serve here at Fresno State. And it was great to get to know Jose a little bit better and hear about his big plans. And Patrick Ramirez, who's a vice president community health and on our university advisory board, already told me he's going to hire him. So he's already on his way to achieving his career goal, which is a wonderful thing. As we transition leadership, I just want to again thank you for your support over the last 7 years. I can't believe it's gone so fast. It's hard to imagine it has been 7 years, but you've been so supportive of my leadership, and I'm grateful for that, always will be. And Chancellor White will begin the process to select an interim president. He'll begin with conversations on Friday with the Academic Senate, the ASI, staff groups, the cabinet, and he will consult with me in that decision-making process. And my hope is by November, we'll have an interim president named for the campus. It's a very important decision because we haven't had an interim president in 50 years. And I promise you, we're going to get this one right. And then my hope is in January that with the Board of Trustees, as the new chancellor, I can launch a search for our permanent president, our 9th president. And my hope is that we'll be able to have that process completed by the springtime, by May, hopefully, if everything goes well. So again, just wanted to thank you for your support, and I look forward to answering questions that you might have. I know that we've been navigating some challenging budget territory here, and I've tried to communicate to you our decisions about that in the most transparent way I can. If you have other questions about the budget, I'll be happy to answer those along with Vice President A. Stone and our provost who's here. And I'm thankful that Tom Holyoke, Professor Holyoke from the Academic Senate is here as well, as there might be questions that he can answer. So Patty, I'll stop there, and I want to hear from our community.
Great. Thank you so much, President Castro. So as a reminder to our faculty and staff, you're welcome to submit questions in the Q&A box. And as we did at the event in mid-August, if you just want to chat with your colleagues and reconnect, you can use that chat function. But I will be looking at the questions submitted and reading those aloud through the Q&A. So let's start and let's begin. So one question coming in, as we are intending to remain remote for the most part in the spring, what are some lessons learned from this semester that we will be addressing to improve the student and the employee experience for the spring semester?
Thank you. Well, I'll open up, and then the provost or Vice President A. Stone might wish to amplify on my answer. I think we've done extraordinarily well. I know that it's been challenging for everyone. We learned so much together in the spring, and my sense in talking to many of you, and as well as our students, that the investments that we made in the summer to help our faculty prepare more effectively for virtual instruction has paid off in terms of the engagement with the students. And I know that we're learning every day about how to do that better. And I applaud the openness of the faculty and our staff in terms of embracing this new way of doing our work. I do think that we've done well with our testing. We now are doing it monthly, and I encourage those of you who are on campus to participate in that. I've done so, and the cabinet has as well. And that's one way of knowing. It gives you some peace of mind about not having COVID, or if you have it, then we take steps to ensure that you're quarantined. We also have the app that's worked well, and our daily temperature checks, our PPE in the classrooms. I think all those things with the hard work that we're doing each day have been important ingredients in our success. The provost has shared with me that he and the deans and faculty wish to have more in-person instruction in the spring, and I'm supportive of that as long as we can do it as safely as possible. And I think what we've learned this fall is we have been able to do this safely, and I anticipate some progress in terms of more in-person instruction in the springtime. My hope is that over the next, spring, summer, next fall, we can see increases in the number of us who are on campus and the number of students who are on campus, because I know that many students are struggling right now in their home circumstances, and it'll be important for us to bring them onto campus safely as soon as we can. I'll ask the provost or Vice President A. Stone if they'd like to add anything to that.
Sure, I'll address what we've learned as far as in the classroom is concerned. I think our faculty are really focused right now on building up an arsenal really of really good tools for our students. One of these really good tools are videos that really deal with not just the basics of the lesson, but really delve into the main themes for the lesson or the main theoretical underpinnings of what the lesson is all about. I believe that these videos will be crucially important in the future when we go back to face-to-face, because the professor will be able to assign the video ahead of time the students will be able to watch the video and then show up in class already with the foundational pieces in their mind. And then they'll be able then to really do a really deep dive into what the very refined analysis of the lesson for the day will be. And I expect that more and more we will have students who will take an active role in their learning as well, together with our professors. I know that a lot of professors are also right now exploring what is called mastery-based testing. I received very, very good feedback from professors, for example, in chemistry, who are doing this, and also other professors who are reconceptualizing what their tests are all about. It's no longer the multiple choice test, but it's a test that deals directly with dealing with and grappling with and comprehending in a very deep level what the theoretical underpinning of a question is. And I think this ultimately strengthens the quality of understanding of our students for now and for the future as well.
And if I could add, and I want to echo President Castro's comments and the provost as well, I think as a campus community together, we have navigated this fall semester very well. And there are areas where we know we can enhance and improve and build upon in preparation for the spring. But I want to thank again our fall 2020 task force and our spring 2021 task force, because we are reflecting on what we learned this semester and how we can even be better prepared for the spring. But I really do think overall, and again, a big thank you to all of you, all of our faculty and staff. And as President Castro reminds us, there was no playbook for this.
It is true we've had to make some very difficult decisions in addressing our $13.6 million state budget cut. We've also had to make some difficult decisions because of the millions of dollars of lost revenue on the non-state auxiliary side. We've been making adjustments there since March. So having said that, our goal has been to protect the academic core of our work and keep the reductions as far from our classroom as possible. So there have been no adjustments to our faculty. In fact, we hired more lecturers because our enrollment is 6% higher than it was a year ago. And we've tried to protect the support services for our students as well. I personally don't think anybody should be taking pay reductions right now. I will advocate for support of all of our faculty and staff who remain with us. And we'll see what happens with the governor's budget in January and whether we have to look at alternatives like furloughs and that sort of thing. But for right now, in my opinion, it would be a bad idea to implement any pay reductions for our campus community. I don't know if Professor Holyoke wishes to express a view here.
Sure, I can chime in a little bit. Just in one technical point, the Academic Senate does not involve itself in issues of pay. That's something that is always negotiated between the Chancellor and the California Faculty Association, our union, as it is between the administration and all unions. And it may be that Chancellor Castro may have to do some of that negotiating next year. Let me just say, though, that we are all very, very deeply concerned about the budget. The Academic Senate was given a budget briefing last week by the President and Vice President A. Stone, and there's some things to be concerned about. Nonetheless, we at this point, faculty are we're all working absolutely as hard as we can, and we want to be able to provide the best level of education we can to our students without harming ourselves. So we will persevere as best we can, and hopefully the budget will be able to provide adequate support for us. I'm a little concerned about what we heard a couple hours ago about final collapse of budget talks in Washington, D.C. I don't know if California was depending on that, but there could be, next year could be a little rough, I would think.
Patty, if it's okay, if I could just add.
Please.
these are, as the President Castro mentioned and Chair Holyoke, these are very difficult decisions that we're having to make as a campus in light of this very significant budget reduction of 13.6 million. But want our colleagues to know that we explored as a cabinet leadership team, explored all possible strategies, including reduction of operating expenses. But it was necessary for us to look at our operations and the changes that we are in right now as a result of the pandemic, and having to look at our administrative overhead. And these were very difficult decisions and very much valued colleagues. And but it was a necessary decision as we are doing everything we can to mitigate the potential for the number of any staff positions that may need to be impacted. So we're very diligent about mitigating the impact for our staff.
Thank you, Debbie. The next couple of questions are related to the ethnic studies implementation, and I'll try to merge them together. So the first part is asking, how do you intend to meet the law's requirement to work with the Academic Senate and the CSU Council for Ethnic Studies on implementation of AB 1460? And then there's an additional comment around the removal of D3 would be devastating to smaller programs such as women, gender and sexuality studies.
I'd like to ask the provost to answer this. He's taking the lead on implementation here at Fresno State.
Sure, thank you, President Castro. Currently, Dean Bernadette Muscat is leading a task force. This task force is undergoing everything that deals with AB 1460. AB 1460 was opposed by the CSU. The CSU offered an alternative to AB 1460. It was a very strong and comprehensive and very thorough alternative. This alternative that the CSU proposed to the governor included a comprehensive vision of what diversity is and of what ethnicity is in California in the 21st century, which included groups like Jewish studies and LGBTQ plus studies as well as Armenian studies. This proposal was not taken into consideration, and ultimately 1460 was signed into law by the governor. This was signed into law for various reasons. We all know the current political climate of the nation on the one hand, and on the other hand, the bill had very strong support from a lot of people, including from what we understand to be CFA. Because of these reasons, then right now, we are moving proactively to implementing 1460, while at the same time looking out for small programs such as women's studies and economics and anthropology and others who will be affected by this, and incorporating them into the general education that we have at Fresno State. We do not, and I repeat that, we do not plan to just simply implement and then cut the courses that will be cut from D3 and then just let them be like that. We want to reincorporate these into general education. And I'd like Tom to also address some of these issues, because he has been also very much in the forefront of this, discussing this with the Academic Senate as well.
Yes, thank you. Yes, there's going to be some rough parts of this. I mean, on the one hand, it's a great opportunity to get some good new courses in that address some issues that frankly really need to be addressed in the current political climate, and actually have needed to be addressed for a very, very long time. But because the legislation itself mandated that the overall cap in credits could not be expanded, that meant to add in a 3-unit graduation requirement in ethnic studies means something else had to go. In fact, the law's intent was that this goes into general education, and that is the way the chancellor is going to be implementing this. Here at Fresno State, I am on the task force being chaired by Dean Muscat. Also on the task force are representatives from our 4 ethnic studies programs here on the campus. And we are devising a timetable for implementation. We have to have this up and going by the fall semester. And it will require the adding in of a new area F in general education, and then over a few years, the phasing out of D3. But as the provost has said, we're going to try to find ways to have those courses repurposed into other areas of GE so that the fall, in other words, to essentially minimize the fallout on this. The references to to consultation between Academic Senate and the Council of Ethnic Studies, that's the statewide Academic Senate down at the Chancellor's office, working with the Council of Ethnic Studies, which represents ethnic studies programs all across the CSU. But here on our task force, we are working with representatives from our 4 ethnic studies programs.
Thank you, Chair Holyoke. A couple of questions are coming in around athletics and the return of football. So 2 of the questions are asking, what message does it send to students that we are bringing back football players so we will have a football season? Is the university saying that sports is more important than student education, as we know students are struggling in the virtual environment?
Thank you. I think that's an important question. I would say that it's consistent with our philosophy about supporting our students and their success. And we have done our very best to serve the academic needs of our students. And I anticipate we'll have even more in-person instruction in the spring. And then with respect to our student athletes, it's an important part of their experience to participate in athletics. And as you might know, we provide scholarships to each of our student athletes for the most part. And it's important for us to do everything we can to be supportive of them. We may have been one of the last Division I institutions in the country to bring student athletes back to campus. And the reason for that was we have had so many cases in our community, and we wanted to be very careful. And we finally, I finally made the decision in consultation with many others to bring them back, only because we have better testing capacity, and through our relationship with the Fresno County Department of Public Health and through our work with Valley Children's Healthcare, we actually have a testing protocol that will minimize any potential harm or issues in terms of cases. We'll try to keep the cases as close to 0 as we can. And it was through that path that we decided to bring them back. And it's just like our students who are in theater arts doing their work. We're going to be very careful in terms of their preparation. Some of them are moving into the residence halls with some of the other students who are there now, small number. If they needed that for their own safety. We also require them to live with their teammates. If they were living with their teammates, then they could stay where they're at. And if they weren't, then we have put them in the residence hall to try to, again, take that additional step to keep them safe. So I don't see it as a contradiction. I actually see it as a step forward. And my hope is that we'll have additional steps forward for more students and faculty and staff to come back to Fresno State. And eventually we'll get to a place where almost everyone is here. That's my hope, except for those who want to do virtual education.
Thank you, President Castro. And on a related note to student athletes, and perhaps Vice President Naystone can speak to this, there is some concern being expressed around the university's plans for public disclosure of the health and safety of our student athletes. And I think this may also just speak to generally about how the campus is notified when there are positive cases on campus.
Thank you, Patty. Well, we take privacy very important in all aspects of any reports that come in relative to any COVID-19 positive cases or potential cases. And we take that very seriously, whether it's our students, faculty, or staff. And we are working very closely with our athletics department and our area Department of Risk Management and our Student Health and Counseling Center that at any time, if there is a positive case that is reported, whether it's a student, faculty, or staff, there's a very limited number of individuals who know about the case and who then do the follow-up on any potential contact tracing or to determine if there's any close contact. We are very careful not to disclose even whether it's a student, faculty, or staff. We don't even make that distinguishment on our statistics. We do it as part of our campus community, but we are required to work very closely with our athletic department if we do have a student athlete who tests positive, so that we can ensure that we are following all the proper protocols with Fresno County and with our athletic department and our Student Health and Counseling Center to ensure that we can provide the resources and ensure the student athlete has the resources, medical resources and healthcare. And then in the event that they may have been around one of their teammates, it's our obligation to ensure that they either quarantine or isolate depending upon the level of close contact. But please know it's a very limited number of individuals who have this information, and we take it very seriously, the requirement to keep this information private.
Thank you. Several questions are coming in again around the status of staff. I'll read one question specifically in an attempt to answer several. This person says that they know there are 8 CSU campuses that will be affected by layoffs. In addition, San Francisco State University has sent a layoff notice to over 100 staff. So 2 questions. Are we part of those 8 campuses? And when will we know what positions will be affected? And how many staff members will be chosen? And how will they be chosen? Thank you.
I'll open up and then ask Vice President Astone to provide more detail. I'm not sure if we're part of the 8. Debbie, I'm looking to see, are we part of the 8?
I am not sure.
Okay. So I can't answer that question, but as I've communicated to you before, this is an option that we intend to pursue very selectively. We've taken other steps first. We've reduced our operating budgets as much as possible. We're running as lean as we can. We've looked at our administrative structure, and as Vice President Astone said, because of COVID, it has changed the nature of our work, and that helped to determine how we made decisions around reducing the number of MPP positions. And then we've begun to look selectively at the staff, at how we're working during COVID, and we'll make appropriate decisions in consultation with the Chancellor's Office and the affected unions. And I promise you, we've taken every step we could so that when we take this additional step, it's as modestly as we can. And Debbie, you might wish to say more about this.
Thank you, President Castro. No, you captured all the important points, and we are needing to look at that and do that analysis. And there's 2 different issues we're looking at, is lack of work and lack of budget. And we have done everything to close the gap of our $13.6 million shortfall. But unfortunately, there will be some staff positions that will be impacted, and we are doing that consultation with the Chancellor's Office now. So there will be more information that will be shared later this month.
Thank you, Debbie. The next question has to do more with transitioning back to face-to-face instruction. And as we begin to do so, the question is, will there be, or there will be, a need for many students to participate in hands-on lab experiences that they have missed, critical skills for their careers? Do you anticipate resources available to serve those students, possibly by innovative and immersive boot camps or short courses?
To ask the provost to answer this one.
Sure, yeah, and we have been in contact and in communication with the deans who lead the colleges, who primarily have labs, And we have spoken about boot camps and other types of activities that will then allow our students to put the theoretical or the mental to the practice. So yes, that's in the works right now, and we will consider having these trainings for our students so that they're able to recapture some of the hands-on experiences that they did not have otherwise. Having said that though, we are very confident that the current virtual delivery of instruction is spot on, and our professors have really risen to the occasion during these times. The students report back in surveys that they are very happy with the instruction and that they feel that they can ask the professors questions. What they do report though is that the need to have more informal sort of dialogues between professor and students and between the students themselves. So I'm asking the professors who are hearing this right now, that they have maybe 5 minutes at the beginning of each class in informal breakout rooms if you're doing a Zoom session. I think that's going to help a lot. Or to create small groups of individuals within your classes where students can collaborate or they can talk to each other as well. I think that's going to help move us along through the spring 2021. Thank you.
Thank you. Just so you're aware, panelists, quite a few more comments and questions are coming in around ethnic studies. I'll set them aside just for now so we can get to other topics, but that's something to bear in mind in case we can return to those. But the next question has to do around an executive order coming out of the White House recently. The University of Iowa, this person says, halted diversity, equity, and inclusion trainings as a result of the EO. That banned anti-racism training. And this person is worried that this could be the start of a bad trend. So the question is, what will Fresno State do to protect faculty and staff who teach and train using anti-racism, intersectionality, critical race theory, and so on?
I would say let's continue to stay our course. I'm awaiting a legal opinion from the general counsel from the chancellor's office. I believe the executive order relates to federally funded programs, not to everything that happens on a university campus. So I'm awaiting clarification of that. Obviously, this is a political issue. It's not in alignment with our values at Fresno State. And I think for now, we just keep going. And if we hear otherwise, we'll communicate, any potential ramifications for this executive order. But diversity and inclusion are hallmarks of our work. And I ask you to continue to lean in and keep doing that great work.
Thank you. So let me see, I'm scrolling through here. Here's another statement and then a question. While many faculty have risen to the occasion to support our students, we continue to hear stories of quote unquote bad behavior from faculty who are inflexible with students, created unreasonable workload expectations, and so on. What message do you have for these faculty, and what is the role of department chairs in encouraging compassion towards students?
I'd like to ask the provost, and maybe Chair Holyoke would like to comment on this.
Thank you, President Castro. That's a great question. The power of the department chair is threefold in my mind. On the one hand, the department chair is responsible for scheduling, and the scheduling needs to reflect the needs of our students. And it should be a fair schedule for our faculty as well. Number two, the department chair is responsible for peer-to-peer assignments. So assignments of evaluations from peer-to-peer, and also of distributing the student evaluations to our faculty. And then number three, the department chair is also responsible for operating, for budgetary issues. There's an important issue though that needs to be addressed here, and that is that the department chair is also responsible for pointing out to his or her fellow faculty that a certain behavior is not conducive to the learning of our students. If that does not work, then the department chair consults with the dean, and then after that, the dean consults with me. We are proactively moving with faculty who are not flexible with our students, and we are encouraging our faculty to be as flexible as possible. The majority of our faculty have done that, and the majority of our faculty are true champions in the classroom. And I'm really glad and about that. So if we do have issues with some faculty, I do expect to talk to the faculty to see what we can work out about such issues. So if these issues are addressed, or if they are identified with the department chair or with the dean, I know about them, and then we do proactively address these issues as well. Tom?
Yes, thank you. This is very, very important. And as a teacher myself, I'm still teaching classes too. I have really tried to work one-on-one with a lot of my students who've turned out to need some special attention. And, oftentimes it simply means, having very flexible due dates for things, because many of our students are going through things that I think most of us just can't really quite comprehend. And so we cannot teach exactly like we have in the past. And even in the past, we always needed a bit of flexibility. Both last semester and at the beginning of this semester, I personally emailed to the faculty letters from our student leaders, basically making a plea for faculty to be flexible, for faculty to be understanding. I also sent out that wonderful piece written by our colleague, Larissa Mercado Lopez, about trying to work with student parents. And if you saw today's Fresno Bee, you know that at City College, there was a very unfortunate incident with a professor there who perhaps should be a little more flexible, in my opinion. And I'm also aware that right now we have an issue over whether or not professors should be requiring students to have their computer cameras on during class and during exams. I can only speak for myself. I personally do not require it because I do not want to force our students to maybe reveal aspects of their lives and home situations that would deeply humiliate them. And we're going to try to provide a little more guidance on some of this. But again, the main thing is just please remember that our students are in some very difficult circumstances and really, really need our support.
Great points, Tom. Thank you. This next question is appearing to come from a staff member. Many staff need devices for telecommuting, but departments aren't able to get those devices due to the budget cuts. What is your recommendation for staff who need devices in order to telecommute?
I'd like to ask Vice President Aistone to answer this.
Thank you, President Castro. At the onset of the transition to shelter in place, and as we knew that we were going to have more of our staff working telecommuting or working remotely, we worked with each cabinet member, each vice president through our technology services area to ensure that every employee had a laptop or device that they needed so that they could be able to work at home and not have to use a personal device, or maybe it wasn't convenient to take their desktop if that's what they had here on campus home. If there are, I'll say kind of secondary devices to support, whether it be a mouse or a keyboard or anything like that, please work with your either supervising manager or your AVP because those items should be able to be purchased with our operating budget, because we have had other expenses be reduced, whether it be travel or events or other operating reductions. And so there should be the resources there. But if all of those avenues do not work out, please contact me directly and I will work with our CIO and Vice President Orlando Leon to find out if we can get that handled for you. So, but please work through your supervising manager first or your AVP. And if not, please reach out to me directly.
Thank you for clarifying that. This next person talks about how this fall, the new Fresno State students have been resilient and adaptable during such an unusual semester. So what can you tell us about spring 2021 admissions and how new students, those coming in the spring, will be supported for yet another semester of remote learning?
Thank you, Patty. Well, I have not seen the specific number of students that will join us, but we had another great admissions cycle, and we're going to be as open and flexible as we can. Our Welcome Home initiative continues to support students who are from this area and may be attending another university but want to come stay home and go to Fresno State. So I do anticipate a relatively large group, probably not as large as we had last January because that was an enormous group, but it will be a good sized group. And I know that the provost and vice provost are going to work together with Dean Muscat and the other deans to ensure that we have the appropriate courses for them to take. And I know that our student affairs and enrollment management team have plans to support them. Our admissions team is already planning different kinds of programs, and I'll participate in some of those. It's really important for us to continue our efforts to make our new students feel welcome and supported, and to refer them when they come to you. If you're a faculty member and they say, I need some help here or there, it's really important for you to continue to do that. As Dr. Holyoke said, they're dealing with a myriad number of different challenges. And I think it speaks volumes that so many of them want to come right now during the pandemic. So let's do everything we can to support them. And if you have any particular ideas about how to do so, please share those with me or with Dr. Carolyn Kuhn.
Great, thank you, President Castro. This next person says, once again, we broke a campus record for grant awards, $46.7 million, putting us in the top 3 of the CSU. Those campuses above us in the rankings have lower instructional workload expectations for many faculty. So the question is, post-COVID, do you anticipate an openness to evaluating faculty instructional workload to continue our momentum in research?
Thank you. I'd like to ask the provost to address that.
Thank you, President Castro. I know that research is an integral part of who we are at Fresno State. And research is not just theoretical, because research always returns to the classroom in an informed way in re-strengthening a lesson or in involving students as well. I am a huge proponent of the RSEA, as you all know, the Research, Scholarly, and Creative Activities Awards, and I plan to keep that as long as I'm here. And I plan to also promote that very, very heavily. So I am open to the possibility of seeing how it is that we can invest more resources in RSEA, and then going through along those ways, because I do see very much the value of what research does, not only to our faculty's careers, but also to the student and their ability to become involved with research as well. So thank you.
Thank you. And again, since we are getting so many questions and comments around ethnic studies, there is one question, I think that captures it all, is whether there will be another forum specifically around ethnic studies. A forum like the one we're having right now.
Okay, Provost, would you like to address that?
Sure. I don't foresee a forum on ethnic studies. The questions are very, very well stated, and I do understand these questions. These are the same questions that the president had in relationship to AB 1460. It's the same questions that I advocated for on the system-wide. It's the same questions that we heavily lobbied the legislature to not have them pass 1460, not only recently, but for over a year, actually. We have been the proponents of a more comprehensive option for what ethnic studies is all about. We were the proponents that included LGBTQ+, and included Armenian studies and Jewish studies and Portuguese studies and everything else in between. I was involved in a campaign of letter writing. I reached out to prominent faculty across California who wrote letters themselves against 1460. It is now the law, 1460, and we have to then implement it as such. I know that D3 then was affected, and D3 is affected precisely because most of the courses that speak to ethnic studies are housed in D3. So there was no other option for the CSU to look at a place where we would implement the 3 units. We were not given the possibility of increasing the units at this point. We had to reduce one of the sections. And I'm not sure if Dr. Holyoke would like to address this as well.
I just wanted to add on a little bit that, it's not a forum as I think is being asked about here. At some point, the Academic Senate here at Fresno State will have to take up and discuss this. I've been waiting on a final executive order to come out of the chancellor's office that, we know pretty clearly what's going to happen. I'm still waiting for a final executive order, then we will have to make some changes to our GE curriculum. And if that, through that process, it would be an opportunity for faculty through their elected senators to, raise the concerns. But as the provost has said, we don't actually have very much flexibility in this at all, and simply trying to manage it as best we can.
Thank you for that perspective. Some of the longer term plans that the university has for repopulating the campus is contingent on the development and availability of a COVID vaccine. So this next question, I think, is quite interesting, being that the current COVID testing and now flu shots for the campus community are voluntary. This person wonders about the efficacy of a future COVID vaccine if no one will be required to get the vaccine here at Fresno State. So the question is, are leaders at Fresno State and the Chancellor's Office exploring how to make the vaccine, once it's developed, mandatory for the campus so folks can return to in-person instruction and work?
Thank you, Patty. I think this is one where we will want to inspire and not require participation. That has worked well for us with testing, and I hope that will increase even more so in the coming months. And the same with the flu shots. I don't believe that it's going to be possible or appropriate to mandate that people take a vaccine. We'll see, but my instinct suggests that we should inspire it, and that we as leaders should model the way. And as long as we have confidence in that the vaccine is tested appropriately and so forth, and I'm assuming that that will be the case, that I know I'll be ready to take it myself and to help inspire others to do the same.
Patty, would it be okay if I also just add
Please
to
do.
President Castro? I want to thank President Castro because we are very fortunate that early on, some of these strategies to help keep our campus community safe were implemented here at Fresno State. Not all of our sister campuses have done that and did that early on as part of our repopulation plan. And so just want to thank President Castro for his support of the monthly COVID-19 testing and then the upcoming flu shots and working with Kaiser, and for everyone's voluntary participation in knowing that it is highly encouraged, but we're doing it to try to keep everyone safe. But these resources are not available or being made available on every CSU campus, and that's because our president knew early on that these were some important strategies to help keep our campus safe, our students, faculty, and staff.
That's helpful, thank you. There are a few questions around the use of classrooms. In this one question, oops, it jumped on me. Where do you see the use of classrooms in the future? For example, fall 2021 moving forward, especially if we are still restricted in classroom capacity based on keeping physical distancing. Do you see that there will be a wider range of online, hybrid, and face-to-face courses in the future?
I actually do believe that that we will have more hybrid opportunities in the future. Without the stress of the pandemic, I think that some faculty are going to prefer to teach this way, and some students are going to prefer to learn this way. But there will be many who want to rush back here and have it all be like it was in March. So I do think we'll need to be flexible about this. And our provost has given this a lot of thought, I know, and I'd be interested in having him share with you how he sees it evolving here at Fresno State.
Thank you, President Castro. I do see that we will undergo a transitional period in which we will have that hybrid that you speak about, in which we will have people face-to-face, and then at the same time, the same class will also have a component in the virtual setting. I've asked the deans right now to explore that possibility, to explore how many classes they expect that are needed classes, right? Either for the majors or for the GE that we'll expect to be in this condition. And I also see the possibility of really speaking about who we are as a community, who we are as a university as well. If we have faculty who are going to be virtual 100%, how does that affect the faculty who are here present and serving on committees? And how does it affect then the dynamics of those who are in committees having 2 or 3 people virtually while the rest are in person? So I think there's going to be a lot of soul searching in the coming year of what do we do with policies as far as meetings? What do we do with policies as far as teaching is concerned? What do we do about the community that we are here at Fresno State? And how do we move forward with this new normal that we now deal with moving forward?
Great questions. Thank you. This next one, the CSUEU has reported that many CSU campuses have offered and implemented early exit programs on their campuses for early retirement for eligible employees. So is Fresno State considering this type of a retirement incentive to help with the budget?
We did consider it, but we decided not to pursue it this year. And I'll ask Vice President Astone to speak to this as well. But the reason why this wasn't a tool that we decided to utilize is because we don't have a large amount of reserves. There are some campuses in the CSU that have more reserves. And so it made sense because you actually have to pay someone who might wish to depart early. And because we have limited reserves, we decided that it was not a viable tool for us this year, but we haven't taken it off the table indefinitely, and it may be something that we wish to pursue here in the future. I'll ask Vice President Astone if she wants to add to that.
Thank you, President Castro. To our knowledge, there's approximately 4 campuses that have implemented these programs, and I think there may be 2 or 3 additional who are considering it and going through the meet and confer process. But as President Castro stated, there is not necessarily a cost savings in this current fiscal year. And given that our reserves are not to a level that would be able to sustain, we needed to ensure that we could, in total, achieve the $13.6 million budget reduction this year, but are keeping this option on the table for future years if we need to explore other budgetary strategies, because we envision that this will be a 2 to 3 year, tightening of our budget, given where the state's economy is, and there's a lot of unknown right now at this point budgetarily. So we will continue to keep that as a potential option in the future, and we're learning from some of our other sister CSU campuses on kind of what they learned from the implementation of their programs on their campus. So we are closely monitoring, but it is unfortunately not an option for us this fiscal year.
Great, thank you.
Patty, if I could
please.
make another point.
Go ahead.
I've grown to appreciate the fact that here at Fresno State, we've embraced low fees, and we are the lowest in the whole system. In fact, the gap between us and Cal Poly on campus fees is like $3,000 per student. That's a wonderful thing for our students, and I believe it's the right thing for our students. However, the flip of that means that our university has substantially fewer dollars available to serve our students. And I think one of the big questions going forward for the next president with all of you is, what is the most appropriate fee that we'd want to charge? And because the only substantial fee increase that's occurred since I've been here was for the student union. There was a small increase for mental health services as well. But in general, we've not wished to pursue increases in fees, and that has had the effect of less revenue. And we've had to be extraordinarily efficient in, making these decisions about the budget. And as Chair Holyoke said, budgetary pressures. So I think that is a big question for the future. If we wish to maintain this course or perhaps move up a little bit towards the average and have a little bit more revenue available to provide support of different kinds. So I just wanted to add that context because that has been one of the reasons why we have fewer reserves than other campuses. And the other reason is that we invested some of our reserves in improving the infrastructure for our campus, which we had to do, and we didn't have another source of funding to cover those different improvements that we have all enjoyed and will continue to enjoy in the future.
I think that's a good point around infrastructure. I think people often forget what it costs to keep buildings and so much of the campus working properly. I do think we have a minute for one last question, if you'd like to entertain. There's a question around how students are being surveyed periodically to see how they're doing. And the question is there any assessment being done with regard to mental health, not just of students, but of employees as well?
Why don't we have the provost talk about this student survey that we just saw, and perhaps Vice President Astone around the mental health for faculty and staff.
Yeah, the student survey does include the mental health component. It includes the academics, it includes the mental health. It also includes the overall notion of how they feel about Fresno
It's 16
State.
hours.
Sorry, that was me. I need to change that. It does include that, and we are addressing some of the shortcomings that we saw with our students through various ways, either creating, I know that several faculty are right now collaborating with student affairs, and I'm facilitating that collaboration. And then we'll be implementing some programs for our students specifically to feel more engaged and to feel more connected to each other.
And then to add to that, in fact, we've been having some recent conversations with our team in organizational excellence with Kathleen Scott and with our colleagues in OIE and faculty affairs and human resources. And as a reminder, we do have our employee assistance program that is available and accessible to all of our employees. So please utilize those services, or remember to offer those resources to our colleagues. We know that this pandemic and our change of how we're operating here on campus and our level of engagement with our colleagues has changed. And we miss not seeing everyone. We miss not running into each other on campus informally, casually on our way to a meeting. We miss those in-person meetings. We're missing a lot of that engagement and personal contact. And so much has been done with programs and opportunities. Kathleen and her team in partnering with faculty affairs, there's just a robust opportunity for professional development and continued conversations on different topics. And because we're all dealing with different issues, both personal and professional. And all of that is converging on us, and is also for our parents who have young children at home and are handling their education, plus trying to manage their workload or their virtual instruction. So there's a lot of those dynamics. And so we will be doing some surveys going forward and working with our colleagues so that we can continue to keep in touch on what we can do better, what might be some other resources or programs we can offer. But it is something that hopefully in early November we'll be able to send out, or later this month, to get more feedback on that. In addition to the information, we're learning what some of the challenges our students are having and what's working too. So I think there are some silver linings that are coming out of this experience that we're having, but there's so much that we're learning from, and we know that we're all missing that engagement piece and that personal interaction piece, and we care about each other and we support each other, but there are different ways that we could do that, and we want to explore even more opportunities to do that.
That's nicely expressed, Debbie. Thank you. President Castro, do you have any closing thoughts on the theme of missing our colleagues and not seeing people face to face before we sign off?
Sure. Yeah, I absolutely miss you very much. I walk the library at different times of the day for exercise, and it's way too quiet. And I imagine, faculty and staff and students here, it's a surreal experience. And I, again, just want to thank you for your hard work. We're making it through this, I think, as well as possible. And I ask for your continued patience and focus on our mission and our values and our principles of community, which are more important than ever before. And I plan to finish strong with all of you this semester. I'm going to run right through the tape, I promise you, with this cabinet, which is so strong. And I look forward to staying in touch with you throughout the rest of the semester. Thank you for participating, and have a great day.